Hello everyone, welcome back for some more thrift store finds. Went to the bins and stayed quite a while. They're actually rotating stuff out at a pretty good clip. And the first thing that I found, I'll move out of the way, these vintage puzzles. There were a bunch of them. They're all open, but I wanted to take a chance on them. These Tuco picture puzzles, because depending on the image, they're worth anywhere from $10 to $70 plus shipping, and I paid $9 total for all of them that I got. So well worth the chance, and already brought this home and I checked the first two and just counted out the pieces, just general like that, and they seem fine. On the back, a lot of them, someone wrote in a little bit of marker like no missing pieces on a couple of them, so I think definitely was a good grab, especially for $9 a piece for all these. So I got what is this one? Has the name Sunny Venice, Home in the Alps, Floral Symphony, Glories of Nature, Gorgeous Autumn, The Old Logging Road, The Covered Wagon, Nordic Splendors, and then two that are from a different style, the Shadowed Waterway and Gladiola, which they're just these, they don't have the pictures, they're more like a themed box, but they're still the labels and everything. And they're pretty interesting because they're these thick wooden puzzle pieces that when you put them together, it makes almost like a watercolor effect. It almost looks like a watercolor painting. So those were a good find. Some boxes are a little beat up. I'll clean them up a little bit, but as long as all the puzzles and everything are there, that was a great find. Some books, and then I found a ton of DVDs, so I'll get into that. One that I thought was interesting for an older book find is a box set, is the Adams Papers, the diary and autobiography of John Adams. Big box set. And this is what I like about this new location. I hate that they took away our old one. It's really easy to get to. This one is, like 4 or 5 times farther. But the one thing I do like is the pricing is crazy. It's like $9 for all those puzzles, and even at our old one, like this big heavy thing of books, this would have been like $10 at least. And everything else that I got was in 3 other bags, and all 3 bags put together was like $12. So putting it all together, there's no way I paid more than 10 cents for this. So that's the one thing that's a good plus. I found the Montgomery Burns Handbook of World Domination. It's an interesting little Simpsons book. It's kind of a fun thing to see, as a big fan of the early days of The Simpsons. A couple of cookbooks. I've actually sold a version of this before. I think it was a different year, but this is interesting. It has some handwritten ones as well as the pre-made ones. This from Hershey's Cocoa, The Dessert Collector. This is going to be a great kind of Etsy thing. On the one side it has all these, pull some of these out, oops, recipes on the one side, and some photographs to go with them. And then on the other side, whoever owned this hand wrote in some other recipes, so I'm going to have to go through that a little bit, but I think that's going to be a great one to throw up on Etsy, as well as this Hayden in the Kitchen. I always look for weird vintage cookbooks, in general cookbooks, like more like if I found like a Rachel Ray or something, that is not worth your time. But anything that's weird or out there or unique, definitely worth grabbing. Some Goosebumps, I Survived, Magic Treehouse, Woman Most Wild, Reading Lolita in Tehran, Too Many Murders, just one too many, should have stopped early, The Golden Cross, and this is an interesting thing. This is the kind of thing, I don't know how I didn't have one of these as a kid, but it's Star Trek The Next Generation, Make Your Own Starship. And apparently there were a bunch of these. I had never seen these before, but it's kind of like those paper dolls, but build your own starship, and this one is complete. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. There wasn't anything else Star Trek in there, just this, and I can't believe I didn't have these as a kid. I would have liked that, so that was an interesting find. A few music CDs. We have Soul Classics, Best of the 70s, The Doors, Cure, Offspring, a Blues Collective, and 2-disc MTV, Classic MTV, Class of 1983. Paul McCartney, All the Best, so best of some Van Halen, and Santana. One random video game find just sitting there in the bins. I have to get a case for it. I think I have an extra one sitting around, but Metal Gear Solid for the PS1. Just bizarre. A ton of DVDs, and the one thing that was really good is a couple of them, someone had big collections of the same actors, so that's going to be great for a lot of these cheap DVDs instead of having to sell them individually, having them sit there. This is a Richard Gere collection. I went through all the ones that I grabbed. I got a huge stack, so for the Richard Gere collection, and then I'll be putting up, and then I have a George Clooney set, and a Harrison Ford set. So those will be good for Richard Gere. We have Internal Affairs, The Hoax, Final Analysis, The Cotton Club, An Officer and a Gentleman, Primal Fear, B Season, Dr. T and the Women, Summersby, Pretty Woman. This was a travesty of a movie, but Hachi, A Dog's Tale. It's a remake of a Japanese movie based on a real-life dog, a statue in Japan. It's just, yeah. But hey, Richard Gere collection. Then we have for George Clooney, Ocean's 12 and Dusk Till Dawn, Confessions, Peacemaker, and The American. Then for Harrison Ford, we have Presumed Innocent, Working Girl, The Devil's Own, Crossing Over, Regarding Henry, Clear and Present Danger, Paranoia, and Patriot Games. Then a few stacks of individual ones. We have Shipping News, Gangster Squad, Traffic, What Just Happened, Sweet November, He's Just Not That Into You, Basic Instinct, Black Rain, Big Easy, The Joneses, You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger, Spy Game, No Way Out, Indecent Proposal, and Kevin Costner in Revenge. Julia Roberts, Notting Hill, probably, in my opinion, one of the most overrated romantic comedies I've ever seen. Love Is a Many Splendid Thing, The Time Traveler's Wife, The Interpreter, Scooby-Doo Does Hollywood, Beyond Borders, The Lake House, we have a Taylor and Burton, Elizabeth Taylor, TMC Greatest Classic Legends Film Collection. This says Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, The Sandpiper, The Comedians, and The VIPs, The Vips, All the King's Men, At First Sight, the old snapper case version of North by Northwest, one of my all-time favorite movies, both Romancing the Stone and the sequel, The Jewel of the Nile, Love Happens, second copy of The Time Traveler's Wife, Morning Glory, Woman in Gold, and Same Time Next Year. One Blu-ray we have Up in the Air, and a couple of seasons of shows. We have the complete first season of Dirty Sexy Money, seasons 2 and 6 randomly of The Mentalist, and the complete first season of Mike and Molly. Then last up we have VHS from the Video Film Classics Collection, Nosferatu, and Night of the Hunter. Some Looney Tunes, Golden Age of Looney Tunes, Volume 1. Care Bears. Big Comfy Couch, a lot of good kids stuff. A few of these Disney sing-along tapes. One I've never heard of before, a Rutger Hauer movie, Escape from Sobibor. Never heard of that one. Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, an older Thomas. Max and Rudy's Halloween. Commando, one of my favorites, Barbarella. A sealed copy of Once Is Not Enough, Joan Collins collection, and a sealed copy of After the Thin Man. Then we have Barbra Streisand, A Happening in Central Park, one of the Barbra Streisand specials. The Wiggles, Wiggly Bay. Hell's Brigade. And from National Geographic Society, Discover Russia. Some classic TMNT, Case of the Killer Pizzas. And one taped off TV thing that actually will be interesting to look at. I always look, but I never find really good stuff. There's so much out there, but this is someone recorded Star Trek Next Generation, All Good Things. So the finale of TNG, and I'm going to watch it to see, I'm curious to see if it is just they taped a rerun, but if they actually taped the premiere broadcast with the commercials and stuff. That would be a cool thing to see. So I have some hopes for that. That could be something interesting. Anyway, that is it for today. A ton of stuff to go through, and thankfully fourth quarter is finally picking up and people are getting ready for the holidays. It's always my biggest time of year. A lot to go through. I'm just interested in these puzzles. Got something very interesting. I love going outside of my wheelhouse and getting some variety, and then of course all the normal media stuff. But yeah, it was definitely a good trip, and I'm glad I spent that little bit extra time there this morning.